All right, so here we are again on another episode of the White Sheet Podcast. It's your host, Ryan Evans. Before I go any further, I need to let our viewers know this is typically what would have been a World of Hustle episode. We have decided to axe World of Hustle to the extent that it's not going away completely. It's just going to become a segment of the White Sheet Podcast. So those episodes out there, they will remain out there, but going forward, all our episodes for World of Hustle related topics will be under the White Sheet Podcast. So that being said, like I said, I'm your host, Ryan Evans. I got my co-host here with me, Nikki Rojas.
How are you guys doing? Happy to be here. Ryan, thanks for having me.
Heck yeah, man. I'm glad to be co-hosting with you. It's our first co-host together.
It is our first co-host.
Yeah.
I didn't really think about that.
Yeah,
It's a special day.
It's a special day. It's an extremely special day for more than just that. But yeah. So yeah, I'm excited too, Nick.
And so today, you want to tell the audience what we're touching on, what we're going to talk about.
Yeah,
because I feel like a lot of people need to tune in this episode to learn about this topic.
Yeah, I will. In today's episode, we're going to talk a little about real estate. This is something that impacts everybody.
Everyone. Everybody
at some point is going to, or should, I think anyway.
Yeah.
We know it's one of the fastest ways for people to build wealth. So you need to know a little bit about real estate. Hopefully in this episode, some of the things we're going to cover are how to go through the process for, just in layman's terms. Mm-hmm. So without going, too much deeper, let's introduce our guest, Nick.
Our guest for today is the beautiful, talented, intelligent realtor, Charlotte Flowers. Charlotte, thanks for coming on.
Wow, that was a great introduction.
Thanks for coming on.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah. Thanks so much, Charlotte.
Thanks for
My
coming.
first podcast experience. I'm very excited.
We are so glad that you're experiencing this for the first time with us.
And I will say, like you said about real estate,
yeah.
The good thing about it is that everybody loves to talk about real estate. Like if I was an aerospace engineer, you'd be like, oh, great, move on. But when you say you're a realtor, everybody loves to talk about it. So it's a great segue.
Absolutely. It's something we hear about every day. It's one of those topics. Every day you get reports on what's going on in the market, and I feel like every person I know is constantly, if they aren't already in a home, they're thinking about how they can get a home, or when that's going to be a possibility for them. And even people like myself, I've been thinking for a long time about the next house I want to get into.
It affects everybody, whether you're renting or buying.
Absolutely.
Or you're an investor, or that's how you're not using the stock market. You're investing everything in real estate. So it really affects everybody.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, Char, let me let the audience know. I call Charlotte Char, right? That's what people call. That's your nickname,
everybody's
right?
welcome to call me Char.
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 So Char, we wanna start by just getting your journey in real estate, like how you got started, how it's going today. Just tell us a little bit about.
Yeah, so I went to UT, go Vols, and then after college, the last month of college, I just decided I have to live in New York City. So it wasn't ever about the job for me. It was always about the city. So the first thing I did when I graduated is I moved by myself with 2 suitcases, and that was it, to New York. And I subletted someone's room, and I bought all of her furniture, and I shipped my bedding, and I got a job. I was actually a recruiter in accounting and finance, so a little bit of sales background, but
sweet. I work in corporate finance.
Oh, you do?
So
I can talk the talk in terms of, because I was a recruiter. So I always say, if you job interviewed me in terms of finance or accounting, I would get the job.
Yeah.
But I didn't know what it meant. I was like, can you do pivot tables?
Yeah.
But it was a good first corporate job, and I did really well. So I lived in New York for 2 years, 2.5-ish, and then COVID happened in 2020. So things were getting weird in New York, like January, February. Like we didn't know what was going on. Mm-hmm. And of course, New York got hit the hardest. So it was really scary. I remember they had body bags and stuff in Brooklyn at hospitals. It was really intense there. So I flew to Nashville, worked from home for a few months, and then my lease was up in April, and I I got laid off in April, but my lease was up too, which was a godsend because I couldn't afford my apartment in New York without a job. So laid off, moved back to Nashville that summer. Didn't know if I was going to go back to New York or if I should stay in Nashville. I wasn't quite ready to leave. I still love New York so much. I go back all the time. But I had so much free time. I was making a lot of money off unemployment. And I was like, you know what? I have time right now. No one's going anywhere, right? So this is like lockdown.
Yeah.
Let me just get my real estate license. I've always wanted to do it. It's a perfect time. So I got my license in October of 2020. And then my first step was there. I joined the top team in Tennessee at Compass, the brokerage Compass. And then actually very exciting, in the last month, I have just moved company. So I just joined a new brokerage here in Nashville, Corcoran Reverie.
Oh, nice.
So just started.
So one thing I want to say about what you just said is I know we were kind of more focused on one of the things we wanted to answer was how the whole real estate process works. But you mentioned that you got it in 2020. I want to know, what did you, for the people out there that are interested in possibly becoming real estate agents as well, what was that process of getting your license?
So it's actually pretty easy. For me, it was very easy. But, the bar is very low in real estate. Anybody could get their license, which is great because anybody has a chance at being successful.
Yeah.
But basically, it was a 2-week, 8 to 5 class. I did it online because it was during COVID, but I would suggest doing it in person because you'll be able to retain much more info. Every Friday, you take a test. When you pass that, you go on the next week. And then the real estate test is the national exam. So everybody takes the same real estate part, and then you have your state part. Yeah. So once you have your license, if I wanted to go get licensed in Florida or something, all I would have to do is take the state portion.
Gotcha.
So it takes about 2-3 weeks, so really not long.
Yeah.
Quick process.
But so how long were the classes though?
So 2 weeks, 9 to 5.
2 weeks, 9 to 5, okay.
So if you're working and you're doing this on the side, it would be pretty difficult. You're having to study after work and kind of control it yourself. Like you can just click through and do modules and things like that.
Yeah.
But I found that it was easier for me to do it in person with an instructor. So then you'll remember so much more that way than trying to read it on a computer and just click through just to get through and pass the quiz just to get to the next part.
Right,
the faster the better.
Yeah.
So that I would suggest doing inline, but like I said, quick process.
Cool.
I had a question.
Yeah.
And it's because my dad was on here the other day and he was talking about sometimes life has a funny way of like, you want to go do this, but then like, life kind of chooses your path for you. And that's kind of like
exactly
what happened to you is what I'm hearing. And so like, I heard you say that you got your license and everything. Is that something that just popped up after COVID, or is that something that you was always kind of like in the back of your head from college in New York, or was it something that was just like, okay, what should I do now? Oh.
No, it was an always thing. I mean, I guess I would say I was into design and home stuff, and I watched all the home shows, HGTV forever, before like Netflix and stuff when you actually watch TV. So all the home, and then as a kid we'd watch like Trading Spaces. I don't know if you ever watched that show. It's an old school, but I just always loved houses and homes and that kind of thing. So it had always been in the back of my mind, but I didn't think I'd be able to do it in New York City. It's just a totally different ball game. I mean, looking back, if you can pretty much do anything you set your mind to. So if I had stayed, maybe that was the path I was going on, but it was a little bit easier for me to do it here with the network that I have growing up in Nashville. Yeah. It just made the transition a little bit easier. But yeah, it just felt like the right time because I had the time. Had I stayed in my current job in New York, I don't know if that would have happened. Yeah. Exactly. So it's like things, cliche things always happen for a reason. But I always feel like I'm in the right spot. Like I miss New York, but I'm not going back because I love my job now. I love what I do.
And the Nashville market is a hot market.
Yeah. Correct? So that's something I wanted to talk to you guys about. Kind of the state of the market is a hot button topic right now. So as you know, the last 2 years have been a really intense competitive market. People paying $50, $100 we had a listing that people paid $1 million over list price. Buyers having to waive all their contingencies. So that means not getting an inspection, waiving a financial contingency. So if your loan fell through for any reason, you had to come up with the money. Waiving appraisal contingencies. So if the house didn't appraise, you had to come up with the cash. So just going in, which, you know, we wouldn't suggest doing any of those things, but some people had to do it to get the house.
Wow.
So actually in the last month or so, I mean, it really felt like it happened overnight. The market has totally shifted.
Okay.
And I'm in this day in and day out, so I see it. So it's very clear to me. If you're just, you know, hanging out, you might not have noticed it. So I think it's really hard for our sellers to wrap their heads around.
Yeah.
Because like 1 week, it was people were still paying $50,000 over list. The next week, buyers were like, never again.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
So, and I think obviously that had to do with interest rates rising.
Right.
So for the first time home buyer, if you were at a 4% interest rate, which is still great,
okay,
and it went up to a 6%, a 2% increase in an interest rate could really knock you out of the market.
Yeah.
That's a lot on your monthly payment.
Yeah.
So it was tough for the first-time home buyers. And then I think they just had enough. They were like, we're not doing this anymore. It had been 2 years of a wild ride. And so now things are lasting through the weekend. We're going a little bit under list. We're keeping all of our contingencies. We're doing inspections and asking for repairs. So just to let everybody know, before this, in the last 2 years, I haven't written a repair proposal in a long time because you couldn't ask the seller for repair.
Right.
They weren't going to do it. And you had to say, okay, well, I'll take the house anyways. Like, I'll either take it as is or terminate the contract.
Wow.
Yeah.
So now we're asking. Yeah. It's scary. And then I had people waiving inspections.
Oh my gosh.
Altogether, which I would never advise. But, you know, at the end of the day, we always say, like, we're the experts in real estate, but you're the boss. So if you say, I don't want an inspection, I don't care, I have a good handle on it, my dad's a contractor, all the things. Then, you know, I'm going to do whatever you'd like to do. Obviously, I'll tell you, hey, I don't think that's the best idea.
Right.
But if you want the house and you feel comfortable with it, then, you know, we can go forward that way. But, so yeah, the market. Everyone's like, is the market going to crash? We're going into a recession. Are we going into a recession? Yes, very likely. Does that mean the market's going to crash? No. So, like, the difference is in 2008 versus now, they had an overage of inventory. For the last 4 years before 2008, they had built too many homes. So over 1.5 million too many homes per year for 4 years.
Yeah.
So then the whole lending kind of crisis in 2008, where they were over lending, they were giving homes to people who had 500 credit scores, things like that.
Yeah.
Okay.
So right now we're not seeing any of that. The inventory is still at a historic low. For us to even catch up to what would be break even, we would have to produce like 5 million extra homes per, something crazy. So we're not there yet. And then I actually was at a conference today, and the statistics for lending is the average borrower right now has a 767 credit score.
Okay.
So
pretty good.
So good. So good. So they said it's 7 times harder now to get a loan than it was then. So there was a lot of factors that led to that.
Even with that great credit score?
They were, do what?
Like you said, 7 times harder to get a loan, even with that
high
credit
767 score? Is great. They're just saying compared to 2008 in general, it's 7 times harder to get approved for a loan.
Wow.
So we're not having all those issues that were happening then. But a good way to phrase it is like deceleration doesn't equal depreciation.
Okay.
So homes are still appreciating always. Yeah. They haven't stopped in Nashville. We don't see it stopping, but it's not going to be the same appreciation like the last 2 years. Yeah. So 20% in a year is what people were saying. Average is like 5, 6, 7, 8, 9.
Wow.
Yeah.
So that's going to be what it's going to look like probably the next few years. But I think people just freak out when interest rates get higher. And it's really cliche, but we always say like date the rate, marry the house. So it's like you can always refinance. And if you're so scared about interest rates and you're a renter,
right,
you're paying 100% interest.
Yeah.
You're building someone else's equity. You're paying their mortgage.
Right.
So it's like if you can, and there's lots of different ways, and we can talk about lending and stuff. But so I wouldn't be scared. I would still invest. But at the same time, my job isn't to push people ever to buy a house. I'm never going to push anybody, but I just want people to know that I'm here when you're ready. That's kind of what it's about.
I love that you said that.
I love that too.
Yeah, I think people get confused about that, especially when you're just bombarding with posts and stuff, but it's just not about that. It's about letting you know that when you are ready, we're here.
Okay. I just got one quick question. Yeah. You said that a house sold for $1 million over market price?
No, over list price.
Over list price. Okay.
I think it was more than $1 million.
Okay, so over list price.
But that's at a $7 million price tag. So $1 million over list, it's not like a...
Okay, gotcha.
So it's like, it's relative.
This is definitely Williamson County.
Yeah. And actually the average home price in Williamson County, I think last year was 800 something, which was wild. And it's about to be at $1 million.
Wow.
That's crazy. Yeah. No, my question was going to was that person from California?
Well, all my clients, half of my clients last year were reloads from California.
Wow. Yeah. Okay.
That's been a major thing. I feel like it's California. Is it New York as well?
I think we did a lot of target marketing towards California.
Yeah.
So not as much in New York. We weren't having as much luck there.
Yeah.
So we kind of did it towards California. So most of my clients were California. Yes, New York, and a lot of Chicago.
Okay.
And I saw a lot of Kansas City people, which is kind of random. They're from everywhere, but California obviously is the biggest.
Yeah, what I was hearing with the Californians specifically was that they, they're selling their house in California or whatever for $1.5 million, and they're coming here and paying
800.
Yeah, 800, and they're like, this is a deal.
They're
pocketing a bunch of money,
And they have land and great schools and no state income tax. I mean, all the things.
No state income tax.
Yeah, they were coming in waves, which was great at the time.
I want to ask a question. So you said some of the distinct differences between the housing crisis in 2008 and today is that in 2008 there was an overage of supply of houses. Okay, and today even though we've got rising interest rates, there's still a shortage.
Yeah. So we're actually in the last few months we've gotten a lot more inventory, but if you look at it in terms of historical data, we're still way below. I actually think I have the number for it. I went to a conference today, so I got updated on all of that, but we won't be able to catch up.
Gotcha. While you're looking that up, this is a question. Sometimes I'll prod some of my social media real estate friends. We get these updates from the Fed about the rates changing, and there's a forecast, and we're probably gonna do some more rate increases, that sort of thing. And obviously it's gonna have an impact on real estate. And I want to know from a realtor's perspective, what do you think, strictly from the real estate market standpoint, what do you think is, if any, the Fed's intentions are?
So the Fed's obviously trying to slow down inflation is the biggest thing. That's why they're raising interest rates. But what I will say, in the market right now, since things have slowed down, I'm seeing sellers buy down buyers' rates. Okay. So you can buy, when you're working with a lender, you can buy points. So basically, just for a round number, 2 points could be $12,000. And you can buy down your rate and have a lower rate. So houses that are sitting a little bit longer, the seller is saying, we'll pay $15,000 to buy down your rate.
Let me understand that, because I've never heard that.
Say you're at a 6% interest rate, and you're stressed. You don't want to buy a house. Yeah. But you need to, whatever. Yeah. So things that are sitting a little bit longer, the seller will say, hey, we'll give you $15,000 to buy down your rate. So you say, hey, lender, you can always tell the lender, you can always pay points to buy down your rate. So say you have a 6 and you just are I'd rather pay the money up front and only have a 4% interest rate. You can do that. But what's happening now is sellers are saying, maybe their house is sitting a little bit longer. So they're writing in, realtor remarks, we'll buy down buyers' rates so that they're not, having this really high interest rate. So there's there's so many creative ways around it. Yeah. And that's the biggest thing about getting with someone who does this full time, who is super educated in the market, who goes to stuff like I went to a convention today. Did I learn all that much? No, but was there little nuggets that I can take and carry with me? Yes. So stuff like that's really important.
Yeah.
But then just staying up to date. So I try to do market analysis on neighborhoods all the time. So I'm doing a open house in Sylvan Park on Sunday.
Okay.
So what I'll do before I go there is kind of look at Sylvan Park. How long are things lasting? Are they sitting through the weekend? What's the average price? Stuff like that, so I can educate buyers. So say they come in.
Yeah.
And this house isn't for them. I'm like, well, first off, I know all the houses that are around. I'm like, hey, have you seen this one? What about this one? Is this in your budget? Because I know there's a coming soon around the corner. Something like that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Or, this one is last, or people are like, why is this still on the market?
Yeah.
And they just haven't wrapped their heads around it. It's really hard for sellers right now.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
So the market analysis, pretty much, you're just doing your research on the whole area from top down to be able to respond to any of the clients' questions or anything like that.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
So I'm glad you mentioned that because, like I said, I had my real estate license for a little over 3 years. And when I would talk to people about it, sometimes they would try to oversimplify, like, being a real estate agent.
Mm-hmm.
And they're like, I think I can do this or that. And it's like, man, you could try, but no, you can't. And I'm sure you hear this all the time, like, especially the people that are like trying to sell their houses themselves.
Oh yeah. Oh,
it's like a nightmare.
Don't get me started.
It's like, dude, I used to think the same thing. It's like, but these people are, like you said, you're so educated on it.
Yeah.
You're studying this all the time. You know what's going on. You know the whole process front to back. And it can be a long and daunting process.
Mm-hmm.
Just from somebody who's been a home buyer, also been a real estate agent. Like, I know it's not something that most people need to go at without a professional.
Yeah, and I think they're like, oh, you just get to sell pretty houses. And I'm like, I see where they're coming from, and I probably thought that too.
Yeah.
But the second I got my license and went through the licensing, I knew I didn't know enough. So that's why I joined a team.
Yeah.
Because I knew I would be doing someone a disservice to be working with them and not knowing. You could get your license and sell a house the next day and you don't know anything. Yeah. You don't know anything about deadlines. Like, there's a lot of money on the line if you miss any type of deadline.
Right.
So say you missed your inspection deadline. You're taking the home as is.
Wow.
Yeah.
You know whose fault that's going to be? Yours, mine, your agent's fault. Like, they could sue you. So there's just a lot to it. And I think some people have a really easy go at it and they get lucky. And things just, like, I know a lot of really successful people that might not be doing all the back end, and they do great. But then there's going to be that time the ball gets dropped, and then, like, people sue their real estate agents all the time.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't know that. That really shocked me. I just was like,
I didn't know that either.
I can't imagine, but, the more I've done this, that's never happened to me, of course, but I've had a really great mentor and worked with a lot of people that have been in the industry for a super long time, and you'd be surprised the first person they want to blame a year after you've closed. Why is there mold and I didn't know about it? Well, we didn't, all the things. So yeah, it's you want to prove your value all the time, but it's hard when the bar is so low. And they could have someone that they had a great experience with and everything went great. But then the times where the deal gets hard, you want someone who's going to advocate and educate and help you. And it's not about getting to the closing table. Yeah. If we're going to an inspection, and I've seen some scary ones, I'm going to say, I think, I have some serious concerns. Yeah, you should, and I let the inspector say, but you should not buy this house, pretty much. And it's not about the transaction either. Like, it's so much more than that. So talk about readiness, right? I have people that think they're so ready. Oh, I can afford, I just did the mortgage calculator. I can afford a monthly payment on a $400,000 house. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm sure you could. Yeah. But have you thought about closing costs and your down payment and inspection costs and appraisal cost? And have you thought, I've had people that are so ready. And so my job isn't just to get your commission and close on something. It's be like, hey, what if your car breaks down? I know we can afford it, but what would happen then? Because the lender and I will kind of talk, and it might be all someone's money. I've had that happen before, where I'm like, look, if something were to happen outside of the scope of the house, if your water heater breaks or your HVAC goes out or your car breaks down, you know, where are we then?
Yeah.
And then they're like, oh. And so it's not just about closing the deal. It's about being, hey, like, you know, it might be better for you to wait 6 months and then do it then.
Thank God. This. Okay, I was gonna stop for a second.
I told you guys she was the best.
She
the
is,
best one in
because,
the business.
Like most, you know, and again, I said I was a realtor for a little bit, and I've worked with realtors. I feel like so many of them get a bad rap because what you're saying right now is you're being totally fair with people. You know, you're trying to treat them the way you would want to be treated.
She's working with integrity.
She's working with integrity. That's the best way to put it. Mm-hmm. And there are so many out there that have not done that, you know, that have given realtors a bad rap, and they're just like pushy car salesmen.
I know.
You know what I'm saying?
I know. It's like, I don't even like to say realtor sometimes. There's a little bit of a negative connotation. I like to say,
So what do you think?
I work in real estate. I'm not kidding. Sometimes I say that.
Yeah.
And then people are like, well, what do you do? And I'm like, oh, I'm a realtor. But my official title is affiliate broker. I like that.
Yeah.
Realtor does have a bad connotation. But on the flip side of not being ready, I try to tell people you might be ready, you know, and you might not know it. And
that's true too.
The other thing is like, and this kind of goes into the process, right, of getting started early.
Yeah.
So you could think, oh, I'm totally not ready. I'm not there yet, you know, whatever. But then you go through the process. So I had a client who got pre-approved, and she had seen that there was like a collections that she had no idea about.
Yeah.
So her credit score was a little bit lower than she had thought. And so luckily getting the process started early, we could work with we got it disputed. And then we worked with the lender. Hey, what do we need to do to get your credit score up? Or let's start the process early. How much do you need to save? You're at this number. If we can get you to this number in your credit score, you're going to, you know, this is going to be better. So starting early, I would totally advise, just so you can get your ducks in a row. Because I've had people who are like, I have to be under contract by the end of the week. And I can't go month to month in my apartment. I don't want to move twice. So I would suggest just starting the ball early so that you can have everything ready to go. But everybody's different. So I'll tell people, yo, pump the brakes. You're not ready. Or I'll say, hey, you could totally do this. You're paying a lot of rent, and here's what's in the neighborhood, and I know where you want to live, and you could totally do it. So it's both.
Okay, that prompts me to ask this. I think somewhere in there you mentioned the word pre-approval. Did you mention that?
Yeah.
Okay. So often from realtors, I hear when they're actually teaching other realtors, they'll say, you know, be careful about taking on clients without them having a pre-approval letter.
Absolutely.
Because they're, you know, real estate is a commission-based job. You get paid on performance, getting things done. And so you can't be messing around with people that are just, you know, window shopping sort of thing. I say all that to ask, what is the obviously I guess the pre-approval letter is the first thing. Is that the first step in the process?
I would say first step, find a real estate agent. Second step, let them help you find a lender.
Okay.
Yeah, because I have a lot of preferred lenders that I know are fabulous, that will always get the deal done, that can cut you a break if they need to, if we're struggling with, like, you know, maybe instead of doing 4% closing costs, my guy does 2%. Of the purchase price. So nice. That would be the first step there.
Okay. Fine. So for you guys that are interested in,
Call me. I will refer you to if you're not in Nashville, I can refer you to a really great agent, and that's the other thing is like, I'll get calls from people in other areas, and so what I can do to help them is I worked for Compass at the time, but it would be a Compass or corporate agent, but you can kind of vet the agents on the front end as an agent myself. Hey, what do you kind of tell me about you? And then I can help connect them to someone who I know will be a good fit.
Yeah.
So it helps them even if you're not in Nashville.
And that's awesome. So she's basically saying if she can't help you, she's going to put you in touch with somebody that she trusts. To help you. She's not just going to pass you off on anybody. And that's awesome as well. That's always nice. Okay, so the first step is get a realtor, hopefully Char. And then after that,
start the pre-approval process.
Start the pre-approval process. Get with a lender.
Yeah. So I was trained. Like I said, I had a really great mentor. So I was taught. I don't show property without two things. The pre-approval is okay if you're still working on it. It's just pointless to start looking for homes until you have a pre-approval in hand. Number one, you can't write an offer.
Okay.
Your pre-approval goes with the offer.
Yeah.
But the listing agent needs to see that you're pre-approved.
Okay.
And you really don't. You can think you know what you can afford, but you don't until you get in contact. So your debt to income ratio, do you have student loan, your car payment, all kinds of things factor into it.
Yeah.
Like, is there going to be an HOA where you want to live? There's so many different factors. So you could think I can afford a monthly payment, but so once you get that process started, then you know what you can actually afford.
Right.
So then it makes the search so much easier.
Okay.
Yeah. What was I about to say? So let me ask you this: how many clients do you see that they have to make an adjustment to kind of what they thought? Like they come to you and they're like,
everybody.
Yeah,
because your wants and needs, you have to. There's gonna be compromise, unfortunately.
Yeah. Okay.
Always. Unless you're a multi-millionaire, but you still will have to compromise probably. There's no perfect house.
Right.
So you might compromise, do I want to be closer into Nashville or do I really want a backyard?
Yeah.
Or do the finish it, like, am I obsessed with the bathroom? Does the bathroom have to have a bathtub? Or will I run, there's always going to be a little something. So wants and needs never really match up, but that's the point of the process. The more that you see, the more you say, hey, I'm not willing to lose the backyard. We got to keep searching. Don't show me anything close to Nashville now because I need the yard.
Yeah.
But those pivot all the time.
What's in this is kind of like off topic, but like what's the fastest that someone's like been like, hey Char, I need a crib, and then they're buying the crib and it's done? Like, what's the fastest, like, ever?
The next day, like going under contract the next day.
Really?
You've had somebody contact you and go under contract the next day?
Yeah.
Whoa.
Whoa.
Smokes.
Yeah.
That's moving.
So what you showed them the right house?
They were cash buyers. So he flew in. We saw like 10, 15 properties that day. He picked one. And he was cash, so cash is king.
Yeah.
And the offer got accepted very easily.
And then he just moved in.
Well,
as soon as you
as soon as you could. So when you're cash, you can probably close in like 5 to 8 days. That's how long it takes. But
straight cash, homie.
Yeah, but you want to do an inspection and all that.
Yeah.
So you'd probably to close maybe 2 weeks is average.
Gotcha.
8-10 days for cash.
I hate cash buyers. I can't tell you how many times I've been beaten out by cash buyers.
I know.
The big dogs.
The real big dogs.
I'll say one thing. Okay, in that market, cash is king, right?
Yeah.
But terms are super important.
Okay.
So it's not always about cash. It's about the terms. Hey, are you letting them stay in the house a month after for free?
Yeah.
Because they're still looking for something?
Yeah.
Are you saying, hey, I'll take on this kind of cost? Or there's so in the contract, there's so many different ways to get creative.
Yeah.
That maybe if you can't go as high as someone else, but you do all the other things,
you could beat them out.
Yeah, you could beat them out. But it all depends on who the seller is.
Gotcha.
So do they need to get out in 2 weeks? Yeah, they're going to choose the cash offer.
Gotcha.
Or are they're really attached because it's a young, cute family and they want to make sure their house goes to a sweet family? They might pick them. Or they don't want to work. They don't want an investor buying their house.
Yeah.
No cash deals. So it's there's a million different ways.
Let's talk about that for a second.
Investors?
The word investors buying houses, because that happened to me multiple times. I had a house. I came in, it's Murfreesboro. It's not Wilson County, but I came in like 10 or 15 over asking. Because the market's been hot for a while. I was doing this back in 17 or 18.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I was trying to buy a house, and I got beat out, by, I think I was trying to pay $235 for this house. I was going to rent it. And somebody came in and had cash $220, closed it. It was ended up being
a company.
A company, yeah.
Like a corporation.
Yeah,
that's one of the questions I had on here.
Yeah.
But keep going.
No, we can talk about that.
Yeah, that's very important.
What I found was, my buddy sent me an article later, was like 10% of residential property
getting scary.
In Murfreesboro is owned by like companies.
Dude, Murfreesboro is a hot spot, and
yeah,
we had a client actually the team I worked on prior to me starting with them had a client that was one of those big investor clients. So they were the realtors purchasing for them.
Yeah.
So the typical buy box of a realtor really fits with the Murfreesboro kind of. So it's like 200 to 300, a 3-bedroom, 2-bath with some kind of yard. And the Murfreesboro really checks a lot of those boxes. And so they just bought up a ton out here, and like Laverne, all of that.
Yeah. And would you agree that that's going to create scarcity and then drive prices up?
Yeah, so I don't know what's going to happen in the long run, because now big businesses are putting their money into things like that. And I don't know what's going to happen, to be honest.
So I think that's a negative thing.
Oh, complete negative.
Because what they're trying to do is for people to rent. And in the long term, that doesn't help, the public. So is there, and I'm asking you because I don't know if you've heard anything. Is there some type of law behind these big corporations that says you can only buy so many houses throughout the year, or is it right now? If they want to buy 1 million houses, they can buy 1 million houses.
I don't think there's any law, and so I don't know enough to speak well on this, but I know that big companies, instead of investing a lot of their money, they're putting into real estate. So some of these houses in Murfreesboro will never touch the market again. Ever. They'll always be a rental. Yeah. But what I will say is most neighborhoods have an HOA of some sort, and you can't have a certain amount of investors.
HOA, could you?
Homeowners Association.
Okay.
Yeah. So they have a strict guidelines and rules. Not every neighborhood will, but now they're starting to do definitely no short-term rentals. That was a big one. That was happening.
Define short-term rental.
So an Airbnb per se.
Oh, gotcha.
So anything below 30 days is considered a short-term rental.
Okay.
Any rental below 30 days. 30 days and up is technically a long-term rental. Okay. But so HOAs can protect against investors coming in. Also, in terms of condo buildings and investors, they'll have a rental cap where over 30% of the units cannot be rented. Okay. Yeah. So they're trying. That's good. Yeah, but that's big. Neighborhoods, so they're trying, but it's tough.
Are HOAs are there certain states where they're more predominant, or is it just kind of random spread out throughout America?
HOAs are really prominent.
Okay.
I feel like it's more rare not to have, especially a neighborhood, a suburban neighborhood setting, most likely will have an HOA.
Okay. They're all around us right here.
Yeah. Okay. It's great if you don't have one as a homeowner, because you can do whatever you want. Where we grew up, we didn't have an HOA. Okay. But the neighborhoods around us did. So my dad had chickens. And they can't, there's all kinds of rules in the HOA that limit you as a homeowner. Gotcha. So most people say I don't want to be in an HOA because I want to do whatever I wanted to do with this property because I own it.
Sure. Yeah,
but HOAs are also protect you against what we were just talking about, investors, people trashing their houses, keeping 50 cars in the driveway, in the front yard, all kinds of things.
So a couple houses like that.
There's no trap houses in the neighborhood.
Yeah, exactly. So they're helpful in some ways, and people hate them too. So it's just what you're looking for.
Yeah. I'm one of those people that hates HOAs.
Yeah.
But really? I totally appreciate the value of them because they'll protect your investment. But they will they're a little restricting. And you can tell me if you disagree, but I feel like an HOA, I've known some people that live in HOAs, and it's usually people that are single. They don't really, they're not at that house maybe a whole lot, or they're just a couple with no kids. So they're not worried about any of the restrictions. But if it's a family, I've heard of people where they have an RV, right? Yeah. And they want to park it in their driveway. The HOA says, hey, we don't want that. It's an eyesore.
Gotcha.
And you got to your grass can never be at a, landscaping has to be a certain way. And it's there's value to it, but for some people it's not for them. So there's also HOA fees, right? Yeah. Did you already say that? Okay.
No, there's HOA fees. Yep. So it's a monthly fee depending on where you are.
Okay.
And it's by square footage.
Okay.
So also condo buildings, anything downtown will have an HOA.
Okay.
Those are for all your amenities in the garage, and all that will always have an HOA.
Okay.
But in terms of investors, short-term rentals are a really big thing right now.
Yeah.
I've had a lot of short-term rental clients.
Gotcha.
It's a whole different ballgame. But HOAs will protect against short-term rentals because people don't want your neighbor having, Nashville partiers. There's a group of Airbnbs right by my house.
Yeah.
And they get broken into all the time. Because they're a target. Because the girls leave the doors unlocked. They're bachelorette groups, and they leave the doors unlocked. So I'm like, are they even breaking in, or are they just walking in? Yeah. So there's like police out there sometimes. Yeah, the girls are out there with the police, like drinking beers. Like, our laptop got stolen.
Yeah.
And I'm like,
did you lock your door?
No. Yeah, but so people don't want them around. So that's why Nashville kind of cracked down.
But just touching on this one more time before we jump on the whole that really like alarms me, like the corporations buying things, because it's going to get to a point where it's going to be really hard to own a house. And then, not to get too deep, but it's kind of like, the rich versus poor, everybody's going to be renting. And what I would like people to hear on this podcast is like, we want you guys to own. That's the way to go.
Yeah.
And have equity and own your houses. Renting is not, maybe if you do short term, but like it is not the way. And you don't want it to be lopsided, where the government already has control. We don't want them to have all this control and everything like that. So I think the government, there should be some type of legislation to, if it's not the HOAs, or I know you said they touch on that, but I think it needs to be something that needs to be like go into like legislation where like
I
these
think
governments
it's under wraps. Like people don't really know about it.
They don't, and we're exposing it right here, right now.
And I'm on the same page. It scares me.
Yeah.
And I don't think that we know even half of it. So I totally agree with you.
Yeah. No, I heard some guy talk about it, and he was like, 15 years, and that's another question I have for you. Like 15 years from now, he's like, it's going to be very, very hard to own a home. And I was and then when I heard about what we have been talking about, I was like, yeah, that's kind of like where it's going. So we need to be like aware of that. And it's cool that you do what you do, because you're kind of like a soldier in that.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like ownership, buy the house. So it's cool. So that's pretty nice.
Have you seen The Big Short?
I have not seen The Big Short, but you've told me about it a couple times. I need to go check it out.
Watch it, yeah. I've seen it in theaters, and I remember being like, I don't know what's going on.
You fell asleep.
Yeah, something like that. I know it's a fantastic movie. I would love to watch it again.
You gotta watch it, because what she said earlier about them basically giving out homes to, in one of the scenes, this may be an exaggeration, but in that movie, there's I think it was a stripper, and she's living in Florida, and she has like 3 or 4 mansions that she has multiple mortgages on. Yeah. It was kind of just a reckless situation.
Yeah.
By because Wall Street's, they're getting dollars every time that they're selling these loans, and so they want to just pass out as many loans as they can with no risk on the debt, so that sort of thing. And I think it explains that. I think we're in a, and so the point of all that, not to get too in detail, but Wall Street caused that crisis.
Yes.
And the taxpayers bailed it out. Well, today,
like always,
as always, and
fucked up.
Today, I usually don't curse on this podcast, but we're getting fucked again because
we are.
Yeah, so because you have investors, they're coming in, and like you said, it's the rich getting richer, poor getting poorer. I don't understand why they didn't do it a long time ago, because you just said real estate appreciates, right? And why does real estate appreciate fundamentally? You tell me if you disagree, but I think it's because the population is ever expanding. So you always, it's something that it's going to be consistently in demand. We have a population that's exponentially growing,
and you can't make more of it.
Right, it's a limited resource. Exactly. And so I don't understand why they didn't do this before, but they're buying up all this shit, and the home prices are going through the roof, and it's like, I know a lot of people today that they, maybe a few years ago they could have afforded something. Yeah. Today, a lot of people cannot.
I know. It is really hard.
So let me ask you on that. Based on that, where would you say in this area you operate mostly in Williamson County? Is that right?
I go everywhere.
Everywhere in the state.
Middle Tennessee.
Middle Tennessee.
I try not to go past like.
She ain't going to Memphis.
I know. I'm not going an hour. An hour is kind of my limit.
If I'll talk about a lot of people that are in my peer group. I would say, maybe a household income that's, let's say slightly under 6 figures. Is there a possibility for those people to like where's the best place for them to focus to get a home today? Or is that even like, is it realistic? Like, I don't know, what are the medium or average home prices?
Nolensville.
Yeah. Nolensville's kind of expensive. Yeah. I mean, think the average, and don't quote me on this, so the average home price in Williamson County is almost at $1 million. So that's out.
Yeah.
Davidson County, but people are spreading out in Nashville. So, the prices are getting really high, but you can get a lot of bang for your buck outside of Nashville. So I have Murfreesboro's great, Smyrna's great, Goodlettsville. There's all kinds of suburbs around. So once you kind of figure out what your budget is, that tells you where you can buy.
Yeah.
So what I do sometimes is I'll do, so I'm not an expert. If it's a little bit further out, I could have sold there before and I maybe know the area, but I wouldn't say I'm a full expert. So what I'll do is I'll do like a 30-mile radius search with your budget. And then it really will show you where you can afford.
Oh, wow.
Maybe it's Mount Juliet, maybe it's Hendersonville, maybe you're going really far north, maybe it's Mount Pleasant, maybe it's Pleasantville View or something. There's a lot, but you'll have to get realistic about, if you're really wanting to own a home, it might be a little bit further out. But the average home buyer stays in their house 3 to 5 years. And people really don't think that. They think it's their forever home every time they buy. Every time. And then
that's how I would feel.
Life changes and things happen, and maybe you want to upgrade, or you have the equity in the house and you want a bigger house, or you have kids, or you need to move for a job. So or you get divorced. There's a million different reasons. And so if you can buy a house, maybe it's a little bit further out, I would suggest doing it. Building that equity, putting your money where it's building money for you, and then give it, few years, maybe 5, and then you can upgrade to somewhere, or maybe it's closer to where you want to be, or whatever. But sitting there, your money is just,
you're just throwing away money.
Absolutely.
I got 2 questions.
Okay.
And maybe you've already answered, but so what would you say, and I'm sure you've had clients who are like abandoned the process of buying a house. Right. Okay. So what would you say has been like the most common denominator when people are like, you know what, never mind, like from getting the deal, and like, no, we'll do this later.
Yeah, I think those people weren't very serious to begin with.
Okay.
First off.
All right.
And
so don't waste Charlotte's time.
But we really try to vet people. I really try to vet my clients, not just, and it's not that they have to buy a house. I've worked with people for 2 years before they buy a house.
Wow.
There's no timeline on it.
Wow.
But there are people that a lead or something that you work with, they are pre-approved, you see a bunch of stuff, and then they kind of ghost. That happens. But those aren't your people.
Yeah.
So like I said, it's like so much more than the transaction. So I want to be your person if you're thinking about redoing your cabinets and you're like, oh, Charlotte, is white out? Like gray's out. Is white out? Are we going back to wood cabinets? Like what's trending right, or not even trending? I don't like the word trending.
Yeah, I don't like it either.
What's selling right now? What are people looking for? And I'm like, hey, let's neutralize. Things like that. Or hey, I want to get my roof redone. Who should I call? I'll tell you who to call. So like, I want to be your person for that. So it's like the people who ghost and stuff probably aren't that person. So it's no big deal.
The second question, and actually I have a third question, but the second question is, have you seen people who own houses, like the, how do I say this? Instead of selling, have you seen them, like the rental, like, oh, we're going to rent instead? Have you seen that go up?
When they already own the house?
Yeah, like, we're not going to sell the house, we're just going to rent it.
Oh, absolutely. I would say do that all day long.
Yeah, okay.
Build your portfolio. If you can hold on to it and you have the money that you don't need the equity from your house to purchase your next house,
you would recommend?
I would recommend it.
Yeah.
And that goes against everything we just talked about.
And that's just,
that's why she's the best.
Her, because he's not telling you any bullshit.
She's the fucking best. And then my third, and maybe you answered this already too, but the third question is, so like, as far as like your selling strategy, I know that you said that you like vet people, but is it like, cause on the TV shows, you see like these people in LA where like, oh, I just sell like, $20 million houses, like luxury houses. Is that a good strategy? Or like, are you selling like half really expensive or quarter really expensive? And then are you like doing 300, 600, or
Yeah.
like, or is that something you decide? Is that something that your team decides, or tell me how y'all go about
So I
that?
think everybody says they want to do luxury, right? So you do less transactions, you make more money.
Yeah.
The price per transaction is a lot higher.
Yeah.
You can do 2 houses a year and make 500 grand easy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's not really what I would say I'm about, and what I was taught and learned is that I will help anybody. I've sold a trailer before.
Nice.
It doesn't matter, and
Yeah.
and I will say, if you treat everybody the same, it comes back to you.
100%.
So, like, for example, this happened, not to me, but someone my mentor, like, she sold like $100,000 house, something, or a trailer. I can't remember.
Okay.
And he worked for some giant company, and he was able to talk to his boss, whatever. And then it came back, and she sold them a $5 million home. So it's like, and I also don't want to brand myself as only doing luxury, although I'll do that too.
Yeah.
But it's like, I don't want to deter someone who's calling me about a $300,000 house or a $250,000 condo not to call me.
Yeah.
Because, when you get to that point, you kind of, you want to help everybody.
Yeah.
I think that's a great approach.
Yeah. Treat everybody the same.
Yeah.
There's enough to go around, and it always comes back to you. So maybe they're your lifelong client, right? So you sell them a $300,000 house, and then 5 years later, you sell them a $500,000 house. And then 5 years later, I actually heard a statistic today. It's like the average client is worth, like, if they're a lifetime client, each person is $117,000. You'll make off them if they're your lifetime client.
And
I like that.
I believe that. I mean, this is the way I treat any business that I deal with, because to me, I see a realtor as a business, right?
Oh, yeah.
It's like, if you treat me well, I'm going to tell everybody I know, and I know a lot of people that are asking about real estate.
Straight referral business.
Yeah.
So you can feel when someone's only about the transaction, if they're not being genuine. People can feel like, you'll get through it with them.
Yeah.
But then it's like, the statistic is also like 86% of people only use a realtor one time.
Dang.
Yeah, and it's also top of mind, right? So when people think real estate, I want them to think Charlotte first.
Yeah.
And it's also who's proximity. Who are you seeing? Who are you following? Who's the first person that's going to pop in your head? Because that's probably the first person you're going to call.
Yeah.
And the first person people interview, especially for like a listing, is usually who they go with.
Yeah.
So they might interview 2 or 3 people, which is great. But they usually will go with that first person. So it's more than that.
So good. Excellent leadership.
This is kind of on both sides, right? Because we were talking about like the business side of things, and also what people need to look out for.
Yeah.
Let me see.
I got a question while you're thinking about that.
Yeah.
So you've been doing real estate for a couple years now. Would you ever consider like becoming a broker and kind of like starting your own firm or anything like that? Would you consider that?
Yeah. So I was telling you guys, I just joined a new firm.
Yeah.
So I'm no longer on a team. I was working on a team, and now I'm a solo agent. So now it's time to kind of build my own brand and start in Nashville. So I wanted to learn from the best and then kind of go off and do my own thing at that point.
Yeah.
But in terms of like the next 5 years, I really just want to focus on myself. People are like, "Do you want a team? Do you want a team?" It's like I just want to be successful myself and just get this ball rolling, and then who knows what the future holds. But brokers have a lot of responsibility, so they're almost like any conflict that happens goes to your broker.
Yeah.
So broker versus broker usually is if there's any type of conflict in the transaction between the agents, the broker's responsibility, they're almost like a lawyer, is to kind of go through everything.
Yeah.
And if you can't get it worked out there, then you like go to arbitration. So there's a lot of responsibility as a broker.
Yeah.
So for right now, that doesn't feel like a good fit to me. I want to focus on, and you can have your license and not be a managing broker. That happens too.
Yeah.
But it's a lot. You have to. It's like it's a certain amount of hours and a lot of steps. So for me, that's not something I'm looking at right now. But you never know, things change.
I want to know, like, I hear what you're saying. It sounds more administrative as a broker.
A managing broker, yes.
Managing people, that sort of thing.
Yeah.
It sounds to me like you're really in the near term focused on client facing, like working with people, trying to help people, that sort of thing.
Absolutely.
Okay, cool.
Grinding.
And this is just for the audience's benefit and just for info purposes. But as far as like people like purchasing houses, what is like what do you see as like the number one reason people purchase a house? Is it because of their a new job? Is it because their family's growing? Do you have a read on that?
Yeah, I mean, it's usually like age groups, right?
Okay.
So it's like groups. People leaving a rental, they're ready to own.
Okay.
Or it's they need more space. Or
okay.
they're relocating for a lot of relo.
Yeah. A lot of relo. Okay.
And Nashville. I mean, Nashville is just growing like crazy, and will continue to.
Yeah.
Lots of development happening in Nashville. Lots of money, big companies moving here. So.
Yeah.
In terms of Nashville itself, I mean, they say like a long time ago they said 100 families move here a day. But
that's crazy.
I could see that. Totally.
I mean, you look at, there's a picture in 2010 of the Nashville skyline.
Oh yeah, I've seen that
picture.
picture.
Like 2020, it's crazy.
They're about to develop so much downtown.
Yeah.
So that whole River North development.
Oh yeah,
Oracle
like on the river.
Well, now there's two sides. So on the East Nashville side, like near Dickerson Pike, they're going to develop that whole thing.
Yeah.
But now they want to redo the whole riverfront part.
Yeah.
It's going to be called like East Bank something.
And it's going to have like, will you be able to have like boats and stuff? Like,
there'll be dock, all kinds of crazy stuff. And then obviously the new Titans Stadium, they're going to develop they're building a new one.
Yeah.
So they're building all around, they're going to develop all around it. So it's going to be, they're proposing like, it's called like Titans Way or something, but like big also buildings, commercial and retail and condos, all that stuff.
Wow.
Yeah.
Do you know?
It's a lot of stuff.
This is random. You just made me think about it because you were telling about what they're doing. Do you know if they're ever gonna like do something with the
junkyard? The junkyard has been purchased.
Yes.
I'm pretty sure. Someone told me that, but I'm pretty sure the junkyard. I mean, that guy held on to it for dear life.
As long as he could.
He's so smart. He probably just made so much money. It's not even funny.
So much
but I'm pretty sure the junkyard is going away.
Oh my gosh! Thank God.
I think. I'm afraid people might be like, "You're wrong. The junkyard forever."
No, I mean, I've been in Nashville for the last 18 years, and every time that junkyard by the water.
Yeah,
it's not just a junkyard; it's on the river. It's a bad
look. It's by Jefferson.
Yeah. Oh no, it's
right downtown by the pedestrian bridge.
Oh,
okay.
Like when you're looking at the skyline, so say you're driving down to East Nashville.
Yeah.
You're just like the skyline's beautiful. You got the bridge, and then there's like you can see the junkyard.
This massive junkyard, and like the boats, they'll pull up.
Yeah.
And they'll dump
like
the trash
barges.
onto the boat. Yeah, like barge boats.
Yeah.
And it's just like beautiful Nashville, like she just said, beautiful Nashville, and then it's like this freaking junkyard on the river.
Yeah.
And I've always just been like you said, I was like, he's probably just holding on dear life until he pretty much.
I know, which is smart, but
yeah.
I will say something exciting. The brokerage I just joined, Corcoran Reverie, is the official brokerage of the Titans.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, so if y'all go to a Titans game,
Sweet.
You'll see it's like on the banner and like all the transitions of like plays. It's like Corcoran Reverie.
Good.
Yeah,
that's awesome.
it's really, so I got to go to the Buccaneers scrimmage.
Nice.
We know Tom Brady.
You saw Tom?
He was not there. Y'all know he like took that 7-day leave of absence out of nowhere.
Oh, I didn't know.
He had a family issue, I think.
We don't know what's going on. There's lots of speculation on the field. I was there. So I did the scrimmage and then I went to the preseason game against them. It was fun.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice.
And the hope is we'll have a box in the new stadium.
Okay.
I'm pretty sure we will, but
okay.
Sweet.
Yeah, fun things to come.
Yes, it sounds like it.
Clients.
I feel like I know the answer to this, but would I guess it's kind of a twofold question. Would you ever down the road at some point consider commercial real estate?
No.
Not really.
That it's just like you have to know a lot too.
Yeah.
I know what I don't know, and I don't know that, and it would take a long time to learn it.
Yeah.
So I can refer to great people too.
You know some though.
Yeah, I know a bunch of guys that do commercial real estate. So
Great.
so if anything ever came up, I could send them in a great direction. But that's not my bread and butter.
Gotcha. I understand. I like when people know what they don't know.
Stay in their lane.
Oh,
some people that think they know more than they do.
Yeah.
But some people, the smart people, know what they don't know.
Yeah, that's
exactly
very wise.
Staying in your lane is like the biggest thing in real estate. It's like,
Yeah.
I'm not a lender. I'm not an appraiser. I'm not an inspector.
Yeah.
I will always stay in my lane. Like I'll let the professionals do their job. But I mean, I know about it, but that's not what I am.
Yeah. Man, I've heard nothing but great things.
I'm inspired. I might become a realtor.
You're just saying I'm going to buy a house.
I might buy a house.
You when you buy your house, you know you're a realtor.
I might work in real estate.
You work in real estate, yes.
Oh, man.
But it's funny because realtor is actually like the trademark term that sets you apart from real estate agents, because there's code of ethics that you abide by. Like, it's a different association. The realtor. You can't be called a realtor unless you like are in association.
Yeah. I understand.
But so it's funny that that's like the bad connotation word, when it's like that's what's supposed to set you apart.
Right.
And like that's the ethics that the other people don't have.
Yeah.
So it's funny.
Wow,
it's kind of a racket, probably. Whoever made that up.
The irony there is incredible.
Yeah, you gotta pay to say you are.
Gotcha.
But we all do it.
Man.
I got one more question. Do you have anything?
I might have one more. You go ahead though.
You kind of already explained this, just the way you've been answering our questions. But what do you most enjoy about your job?
I guess just meeting people.
Okay.
I also love seeing homes. It doesn't matter what price range it is. Like, if I ever were to build a home, we'd be in so much trouble. I've seen so many homes. I would have no idea. But every day is different. So it's also a super flexible schedule. Some days, I always say there's not a lot of balance for me. I'm either like drowning, so busy. Yeah. Or I'm like, oh, I don't have anything going on today. Gotcha. I mean, obviously there's things I should be doing. Gotcha. But super flexible. I work for myself. That's great. And I get to meet a lot of cool people. Yeah. And help them. And it's fulfilling.
You would say that you love your job?
I love my job.
Audience, do you hear this? Somebody saying they love their job. I know it's rare.
It's real.
But it's possible.
It is possible. I didn't know this was possible. So I remember when I switched over and I worked a 9 to 5. And I was like, it's so cool when you love your job. Yeah. It's like a whole different world. Yeah. Your life is like
limitless.
10 times better. Yeah. It's cool.
Yeah. So find, have self-awareness, have experience, find what you love, and you're going to end up, living a happy life.
Trust the process.
And trust the process.
You don't know what you're follow. Just
trust the process and understand leadership and what all that means. So that's good.
That helped.
Yeah.
The 2 questions you just asked were ones I was thinking I wanted to ask earlier, but now
I just kept it so real. I answered your questions without even knowing them.
Yeah, those are great.
It happens.
It's the headphones.
Yeah, you can read your mind.
I know.
Oh man, well, this has been an awesome episode. I've had a great time.
I've had a blast.
I've had a great time.
Charlotte, thanks for coming.
Y'all made me feel so comfortable.
Oh, one more thing. Do Instagram or anything you want to?
Oh yeah. Do you have any?
Yeah. Feel free to follow me on Instagram. It's just Charlotte Flowers _. Okay. And then I have a realtor Facebook. Okay.
We'll put it in the credits.
Yeah. When I edit it, just give me all that, and I'll put it at the very end.
And something interesting about Instagram too is like you're supposed to do 80% personal, 20% business. So it's like you want people to use you for you, and you don't ever want to bombard it. So anyone who's on the fence about giving the follow. Okay. I try to keep it very personal, so it's not just shoving real estate information on your face, because I follow a lot of real estate agents, and I find myself being like, I'm about to unfollow them.
It's too much.
It's just a lot. Yeah. So don't worry, I won't do that.
So as far as like people contacting you, they contact you directly, or they contact you through the your new
everything's direct. So it's sometimes it's like scary, like your phone, my phone number, anybody can get in touch with me.
Yeah, you just get random
That's
numbers.
what you need. It's like you got to answer your phone. So my number is everywhere.
Okay.
Well, Charlotte Flowers is the official real estate agent of the White Sheet Podcast. So
Yeah. We just signed her.
yeah,
Yes.
And she's the #1 realtor in Nashville,
she
Tennessee.
is.
Self-proclaimed.
Yeah.
According to Nick.
I gotta be honest.
Right.
I've never heard from somebody working in real estate better than what I just heard today, and that's the God's honest truth. Put me on a polygraph.
I am not joking either. I feel the same way.
If I was trying to buy a house right now,
Yeah.
this is who I'm talking to.
The professionalism, the integrity,
Yeah.
the transparency,
The main thing for
the
me
leadership
is just,
skills.
Yeah, I trust this person. They have convinced me to trust them.
Well,
Yeah.
that's what it's all about. You want to
Yeah.
work with someone you trust.
Yeah.
So, and it's just,
Especially on such a. I mean, this is the biggest purchase.
Yeah,
a
this
person's
isn't
gonna
like
make
this
in
isn't
their
like
life.
a car buy. Like,
Right.
This is
no,
like
this is the
big
real
deal.
deal.
Yeah.
This is like your life savings.
Right.
But you have to have some reserves.
yeah.
I've had that happen. But
Yeah.
this is what you put your money towards and what you save for and strive for.
Cool.
This has been awesome.
It's been really fun.
Well, Char, we really appreciate it.
Very
Thank you
much
for having
appreciate
me.
it. Thanks for coming.
For real. I really have loved it. I was nervous.
No.
But y'all, this is a blast.
Okay.
Y'all are the real deal.
Doing our best.
You are.
Trying to be like you.
Thanks, Char.
Thanks, Charlotte.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.